Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sports Live with Steve and Justin. How are you, Justin?
I'm still full from lunch yesterday. Thank you.
We had lunch yesterday?
No, your recommendation to go up to Gilligan's.
Oh, that's right. I was like, I didn't remember that. Yeah, no, that place is unbelievable, right?
It was great. Really was. A lot of food for a lot of bang for your buck. And I was able to take a whole bowl full of clams home to my mother who loves mussels and clams. And it was almost like 5 pounds in that box.
And you didn't have the lobster though. The lobster's amazing.
I had lobster tails, but I did not get the stuffed lobster. But now I know we can go back because my wife is already planning our next visit.
Yeah, I like the broiled one. I mean, listen, it's half the price of anywhere else. Half the price.
Outrageous. Food was outrageous.
And if anybody wants to know where that is, just reach out to me or Justin, and we'll let you know. But it's in Rockland County. I'll give you a hint. New York. So the wildest few days between the NCAA semis
What a week
and
for
the
football.
I mean, I was watching football since Thursday,
Yeah. Every night there's a game on.
and there's one tonight
Yep.
that we're going to see.
I'm still a little shocked by that we're having a Monday night football game on playoff game, but
I know.
pretty cool. More football.
I know. The only thing is on Saturday, I hate to even say it, I could use a little football right at 1:00 because you're used to the two games on Saturday and the two games on Sunday. But this time we ended up with 6 games. So it's done a little differently now, which is amazing. What'd you think about, Amazon Prime has gotten so lucky with these games. I mean, people complain because it's on Amazon, but I have to say that I think the group that they have there does a great job
I agree. They were watchable for sure.
for a
And
change.
in that case, listenable too.
And
Yeah,
the games they've gotten this year have been amazing.
yeah, they're the NFL and the streaming partners are doing the best job they can to give you a watchable product. So they want big teams and big names, big quarterback names anyway, because they're trying to shift us into the next era of, I guess, what we call watchability, which is streaming. And I'm not a fan of that because it's so fragmented. I feel like it should still be available on regular television, but we acquiesced for the last 30 or so years to cable television and our local teams being on their own channels. So it's just, it's the way of the future if you want to watch or consume pro sports.
Absolutely. And I
The
mean, pretty
secondary
much,
sports are starting to get more airtime, I noticed. It seems like things like the WNBA, the Women's Volleyball League, even G League or D League basketball is being televised where you didn't have that before.
right.
So there's still, a market for people who want to watch sports, but it's getting ever more exclusive.
So I don't know if it was Thursday or Friday. I want to say it was Friday now that you bring that up. I heard an interview with Stephen A. and Dana White talking about UFC now on the streaming service. And it's now on Paramount Plus. And just to talk about television coverage for a minute before we get to the games. So there is no more pay-per-view. I mean, I think he signed, I think it was like a $17 billion deal or
Hmm.
something. There is no more pay-per-view. So no more having to watch not only ESPN, but you had to have ESPN Plus, and then you had to get the pay-per-view. So now all you have to have is Paramount Plus. And I have it. I don't know if you have it. I watch it all the time.
I think I have it on the stick.
They have great shows. I mean, I can go on and on. But they have some great shows on Paramount Plus. And what's interesting is that there's no more pay-per-view. And so we're going to see great fights on Paramount Plus for just the cost of admission, so to speak.
Yeah, I
And
think that tells you that there's, making the move from pay-per-view to something like streaming or these other services It's always about money, which means that if they were willing to give up their pay-per-view money, they got big money elsewhere.
Yeah, they got more money than they would have gotten. And they realize that that dynamic is going to create a wider audience because pay-per-view obviously keeps people away.
It was limited for sure, you know.
And now you're going to be open to a wider, and this is something else that he announced, and you're going to find this interesting. I don't think we spoke about it. And that is he is starting his own regular boxing that he's going to run just like UFC. Everybody fights everybody. No more certain promoters controlling fighters, controlling fights, guys fighting fake fights, not real contenders.
Yeah,
He said none of that.
you're gonna have to earn it.
You're going to have to earn it, and everybody fights everybody. That's the way it's going to
I
work.
think he's enabled to do that because the money's so big. They don't
That's
have to
right.
worry about creating matchups. It's you're gonna fight who I tell you to fight, and you're still gonna make money.
And every month, there's going to be a big fight, whether it's welterweight, whether it's heavyweight, whatever it is. So you're going to have on Paramount Plus UFC and the return of boxing. And we know, listen, one thing we know for sure is White really knows what he's doing, right?
Well, he's a very smart man, and he is the front man for that entity. I watched a video recently on the UFC rabbit hole, so I won't go deep at all. But there are some big names behind Dana White now that probably weren't there before.
Right. Because that big company bought UFC and they bought WWE or whatever the thing is. So that company controls both of those. Now they're run totally differently.
I would, yeah, if you look into them, if you want to check their Wikipedia pages or keep clicking links, you'll get back to some pretty prominent names that might surprise you.
What's interesting What's interesting, my friend just texted me, he goes, all the things you do. I don't know how you sleep. What's interesting is that when UFC was kind of floundering, didn't really take that big push, was out there, whatever, there was an option to buy that. What's his name's son? The guy from WWE. What's his name? McMahon.
McMahon,
McMahon's son wanted to buy UFC and not merge them together, but to run UFC like it is. And McMahon said no. And he said, "You
McMahon
want
said
to?"
no, or Dana White said no.
McMahon said no,
Vince
and
McMahon.
Vince McMahon, and
Yeah,
it was very expensive. It was billions. I think it was billions. And McMahon
it
told
had
his
to be.
son, "You want to buy it? Buy it with your money, not mine." And listen, we know that the fall of McMahon comes soon after that, but not that the fall of WWE. I mean, that's making loads of money, and that's involved in ESPN, uh, which is a little weird. I think for me is that you're watching an ESPN show and they're talking about football and gambling, and in the same breath they're talking about WWE,
It's
which
pretty incredible
which
to see where it was when it first started and where it is now.
right. So you think about here, you're gambling on something that gambling on football, which we don't know the outcome, and you're advertising WWE, which with the outcomes are all predetermined. So it makes you scratch your head a little bit. To me, it does.
Some people are wondering if the outcomes are predetermined in the NFL.
Oh, come on. We don't think that's true. We think that maybe there's a little shaving going on.
My issue is that it's already been through court where we've been told that you are not entitled to fair play, that it's entertainment. So I'm not saying that that is proof that any of these games are rigged, but that you're not entitled to fair play, and there are companies out there that allow you to gamble, to me, that's a problem. If you're
Right.
not getting fair play and you know you're not getting fair play and you're still gambling on it, I would imagine if you called that helpline, they would tell you that you have a problem. So, you know, if you think it's on the up, that's a different story.
Yeah, I mean,
But it didn't, we didn't listen. We didn't used to allow gambling for a reason, and you know, it always comes down to some politician making money and changing the laws. And it went, we just most recently was the 2018 law or in 2018, that law, the Bill Bradley law, got overturned, and all of a sudden we have gambling on phones, and you can gamble anywhere in the country.
so let's put that aside for a minute. Let's talk about the weekend, right? Um, it's almost surreal that every game came down to the end, right? Oh, except for
Not
the
only
last
that,
Friday
I
night didn't.
texted you that it's like watching basketball now. You could just turn
Back
the
and
game
forth.
on the last 4 minutes, and you'll see all you need to see.
Well, I don't know about that,
They go
but
back and forth 3 or 4 times a piece in the last 4 or 5 minutes, and the score changes 3 or 4 times. It's pretty incredible.
well,
I don't remember football
Pete
being
Rozelle will
like that every game.
will tell you that there's a lot of parity right now.
Well,
But
I
of
think
course
that
he's
kickoff
dead.
rule plays a big part.
Kickoff rule changes a lot, and it's different. I'm not sure. I do like the idea they're not running down the field full speed and smashing into each other for no reason whatsoever. That certainly slows the game down, changes the game a little bit. I mean, it's almost strange when I watch it. I'm like, he kicked the ball. Why isn't anybody moving?
It's just
And,
so
and then you
foreign to
go,
me.
oh yeah, it's some kind of scam thing that the NFL came up with so nobody gets hurt.
Yeah.
I think I hesitatingly say I think it works. Um, so back to the week. So Thursday night's game, Miami comes out, is crazed. They really take it to the game goes back and forth, comes down to the final minutes.
They had a lot of energy, for sure.
Indiana comes out on Friday. They look better prepared than any NFL team I've seen this year. They
They were
have
clicking
great
on all
players.
cylinders.
They execute. Interception out of the gate. They're behind. The other team was never ahead.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
First play the game right. They are a force to be reckoned with.
Indiana is, timing and precision. They run a lot of RPOs to kind of uh, neutralize pass rushers and bait the secondary, particularly safeties. So they do they're very finely tuned. Like you said, they don't just go out there and draw a play in the dirt. They've been practicing, and you could tell that Signetti's got them, well oiled at this point. Whereas Miami coming into this game, they're more about chaos and disruption. So it's two teams that are, they're not mirror images of one another. Two very different philosophical or philosophically run programs. And you know, this is a home game for Miami. It's in Miami, so that is going to be a huge factor, I'm sure. And we'll see. If Indiana, you know, can beat Indiana, and why would they not be? They should be able to move the ball, and that's not a knock on Miami's defense, just going by the scores of these games. I mean, Miami had their hands full in their first game. They won 10-3, and then they played Ohio State, and that was, relatively close in scoring. Was it 24-14? But then, they basically get in a shootout with Ole Miss, and the quarterback from Ole Miss looked incredible. I mean, he was hitting everything. Um, he made some plays on his feet and with his legs, and he seemed to make every throw. And Miami had virtually no answer. It was almost like, it came down to who was going to have last possession, and it was Miami. You know, but Indiana just absolutely steamrolled Oregon which was their second matchup. And a lot of people were saying, "Oh, this will be different. It'll be, they won't." I mean, they absolutely. This was took them behind the woodshed type game.
Yeah. I think, we'll talk more about it next Monday, right before the championship game, but I think I think the semis were good for college football.
They
I
were
mean,
two good match. Well, the one good matchup, but yeah, I mean,
well, the other one was
Indiana,
good. It's just a dominant team. You get that too,
and they had
you
played them
know?
once already. Yeah.
So, and then we move to Saturday and we start off with the Rams and Carolina Panthers. And, Carolina comes out fighting. Rams look a little sluggish from the beginning. You're thinking that the Rams, who finished number 5 on the list of teams in their division, in their conference, you say to yourself, they really need to play better than that. They both need to play better than this to kind of win, to kind of go all the way.
Their special teams has been subpar for sure. And it does make a difference, especially the further along you go in the playoffs. And, a couple times we've seen this season, especially that Philly game where the Rams lost to Philly, it was special teams that lost them that game. The game against Seattle, which was really the difference maker in the entire conference. I mean, that ball hitting off the guy's head and rolling around, the guy has presence enough to pick it up in the end zone, and it's not blown dead. That game easily could have went the Rams' way. They didn't really do anything wrong in that game. I mean, they let up a lot of points, but essentially that one play was the difference in being a 1 seed or being a 2 seed versus being a 5 seed.
Right. But on Saturday, I thought, Carolina came out good. They got a young quarterback. They were really playing well. I mean, I think they have a lot of future ahead of them.
Yeah, I
But
think so.
it's funny that almost all the games, not all of them, but almost all of them, one team dominated the first half and the other team dominated the second half, and the one that dominated the second half ends up winning the game at the end.
It's almost like there's no plan B. I say it all the time that, you can see a team. We've seen it all season. Didn't the Cowboys come back and beat the Eagles and the Eagles are up 21
Yeah.
in that game?
Well, I'm going to get to you. I'm going to get to the Eagles, and I really think that my prophecies came very true with the Eagles, even though they haven't fired the coach yet. So I know that.
I'm still shocked, to be honest. I thought they would win at
Well,
least one game.
the fat lady hasn't sung on that. I mean, on them and what's going to happen. Then we get the Bears in Green Bay.
They were talking about Sirianni getting fired in the postgame. So for them to even mention that or it to be relevant, even though they just lost in the play, they still won a Super Bowl last year. So
Yes, but
yes,
that
but
was the let's. All right, you want to talk about? We'll jump ahead.
no, we're go
We'll
ahead. I'm
jump
sorry.
ahead to the Eagles and talk about San Francisco and the Eagles. All right. First of all, both teams. Listen, San Francisco's a little beat up. They have a lot of guys out.
They were a lot beat up.
They lost
considering 3
Kittle.
players out on defense.
They lost and big
And then they
time
lose
players,
Kittle.
and then they lose. But they have a good defensive coach. Used to be the coach of the Jets. He's very good, and
Have to give him credit.
he proved his worth on that day. But what's interesting about Green Bay, I think that their play calling I'm sorry, did I switch things? We're
You
talking
said
about
Green
the
Bay.
Eagles. We're talking about the Eagles and 49ers. I'm sorry. I thought the game plan for the Eagles was the worst game plan I ever saw in my life. There were no plays that were NFL caliber level. Everything was like a high school call. If you look at the last series
play in
of
the game.
downs, they called the same play 3 times in a row. And if you were watching carefully and you saw on the sideline, the quarterback is sitting there talking to the coach, and he's like, "Are you kidding me?"
Mm-hmm.
And, the implication is now, after watching it all and thinking back at it and seeing some analysts, he was going, "That's all we got? We're not going to call anything else?" And they ran the same play. And And their defense, the 49ers defense, just said, all right, you want to run it again? Run it again. We'll beat you again. And it wasn't successful the first 3 times they ran at that. So I really thought the game plan, listen, the offensive coordinator's got to be out of there if they didn't fire him already. I didn't see because I was working more today. But he's horrible. And I think the coach has got to go. You
I
got to try to get, if you can
I
get
agree.
Harbaugh in there,
You
you'd
can't.
be you'd be sitting so pretty. Or
They
the other
have
guy,
so much talent, and again, he was arguing with one of the wide receivers on the sideline,
right?
and you could just tell that he's completely detached from reality, or at least it looks that way. I mean, I don't. If I was the owner of the team and I saw this behavior week in and week out over the season, I'd have to be wondering, how the hell did we win a Super Bowl last year?
I agree.
And
I
ask
don't think they
yourself
know why.
what changed from last year to this year. Who's not there? You want that guy back. But I think the most telling thing for me in
Well,
that game,
I think their offensive coordinator went somewhere else, and now was a coach or something. So
the most telling thing for me was when they said that the backup running back averaged more yards per carry than Saquon. Saquon then got hurt. They bring that guy in, and he's ripping off chunks of yardage on the inside the tackles. And I'm saying to myself, is there something wrong with Saquon, or are they calling different plays? And I had to rewind it a couple of times to look, and I'm like, something's not right. How? Because Saquon did have a couple of big runs in that game, and they just kept going away from him. I would have pounded him right up San Fran's rear end the entire first half. And they wanted to get cute. Like you said, they ran the same play 3 times in a row. They did this. They're throwing the ball. What? You have the best running back in football. You're playing at home. Use him. I mean, it just didn't make any sense to me. It really didn't
not
make any sense to me.
and this is the same conversation we had about them many times during the week. The coaching, and it's not the players because we know the players it has. Listen, did Brown drop 3 passes, right?
Oh, that both receivers, A.J. Brown and Smith, had big drops in that last drive. So there's some out of sync happening there, and you got to make those plays in crunch time. You can't drop those passes, not when you're expected to be a top talent on that
Right.
offense.
And there's some, in football, you have these guys that transcend. Their heart and their abilities somehow flow together, and they do things that make you scratch your head. You're like, wow. And they do it every time. The Lawrence Taylors of the world, and McCaffrey is one of those guys.
Yeah, I agree.
I
He's
mean, that
incredible
fake,
talent.
that end around where they, a pass option or whatever it was, and they threw it to McCaffrey. They did not double team McCaffrey. Not only did they double team him, I'm not even sure they had somebody watching him.
They took the bait and let him run free. I mean, he had somebody
And,
at the end catch up to him, but nobody
but I mean, but
was watching
they,
him out of the backfield
it isn't just
run
that
route.
play. They had no, if you watched, use like a monster man or whatever you want to call it, where you put somebody, this is your guy. You follow him. On this play, you watch McCaffrey. You stay with him and don't let him get past you. They had nobody doing that. The most dangerous guy, maybe in all of football, because
Incredibly talented player.
I mean, he can run, he can pass. I mean, he can catch passes. He does whatever. He breaks tackles. He makes things happen. And it's ridiculous that they didn't have any. I don't understand what is going on with that team. I really don't. I don't know what they do all week.
Yeah. You have to wonder what the philosophy was and what preparation went into the game plan for that because it didn't look like you were waiting for them to take over the game and I'm trying to remember what the timing of was the game. It was late in the third quarter and they were driving and I had texted Mike, and I don't know if I texted you guys. I said, if they don't score a touchdown here, San Francisco's going to win the game. They kicked the field goal. and that was that. And you could
Right.
just kind of feel like they kicked that field goal, and you could just even feel the crowd from the television watching that. They were just deflated. Like, we couldn't score a touchdown there. We're moving the football. We have the lead. If we score a touchdown, the game theoretically should be over. I mean, you deliver, you know, a knockout punch, plenty of time left, but it just dictates how the rest of the game is played when you only give up 3 points. And what about people not taking points off turnovers and going for it on fourth down yesterday? We saw it 4 times or 3 times. The play calling. I'm telling you, I think they just look at a computer screen and it's got a bunch of green boxes and red boxes, and it just click the green box to run the play because that's what analytics tells you is a good play here.
There's no way. Who was the first one? Was it Carolina? I forget. Who was the first one that ran it from their own 32?
It was the first game.
It was
Was
Carolina, right? Or was it Rams?
No. Who lost that game? Jesus.
Rams. Carolina lost that game.
No, it was the Jaguars, wasn't it? The Jaguars had a who cares who was first, but yeah, I thought it was the Jaguars.
I mean, well, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
It's not even close.
What are you doing?
It's not
and
a
he's
yard
telling
or
you
two.
we thought it was our best interest. He's telling you the analytics said we should go for it.
And no way the analytics said you could go for it. No way.
No
you forgot,
way. No way.
If the analytic, you forgot to punch a number in.
And let me tell you something else. If they have all these analytics are the same. They don't have their own. They're all getting it from the same program. So if I'm using analytics to run or pass on a certain down and distance, and the analytics says run this play, guess what? The defense has the same chart. They know what to run against it. It's just mind-boggling to me.
Horrible.
Trust the analytics instead of coaching the game. What are you doing? And then not kicking field goals on 4th and 2. I mean, you're on the road. You're playing. Take the effing points, please. I mean, it's just football 101. 100 years worth of
you're on
analytics
the road.
is not changing anything. Ridiculous.
You're on the road. You're
Take
in the first quarter. You're going to have to bowl a load of times more.
Right.
Get the points.
Take the points. It's just incredible. I mean, unless your kicker is dead or he missed the team bus or you left him back in San Francisco, whatever it is, kick the field goal. My God. I mean, you just can't. I mean, I understand some guys like to go for it in certain situations. You want to, you know that you're a heavy dog, let's say, and you're trying to inspire your football team and you have faith in them and you want to, you believe in them. And if you deliver that punch, that it's going to give you some momentum and put the other team on its heels. That's not happening when you do it from, if you're outside the 5-yard line, that ain't happening.
I want to say it was the first series.
Well, it was first or second.
First or second
Take
series.
The points.
And you're on your own 32 or 35 or something like that. The other team's like, no problem. We'll take the ball here.
Go ahead. I just, maybe it's that they don't have faith in their kickers. I don't know. I just,
no.
And that's another thing. What do you think the kicker's thinking? He's got to be thinking, I need to go in and make this field goal. And then they don't use him. That's got to put something in his head. Yeah, I would have made that from 32. That's a chippy. Then he comes out later and misses one. You wonder why.
So Rams and Carolina, that was the first game. Second game, Bears.
Sorry, I distracted us from
Bears in Green Bay. Bears at home, right? They were Soldier Field.
Bears at home. Game was actually closer than I thought it would be, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
I thought the Bears would be a little bit more well-prepared for that.
Me too.
Credit where credit is due. LaFleur seemed to have things going right until they didn't go right, if that makes any sense. But that was another one. Wasn't there a missed field goal in that game? Or missed extra point?
Yeah,
something like that, right?
So the rumor is with Green Bay that the coach is going in to talk to the owner.
They're going to
And
evanluate for sure, no doubt
right,
about
he
it.
has 1 year left in his contract, and it's hard for a coach with 1 year left. So, excuse me.
You're either getting an extension or you're getting fired.
Right. So the thought
That's how this league works.
is that they're going to bring him in for an extension, and that conversation's only going well if he agrees to get rid of all the other coaches. And if he doesn't agree to do that, then they were going to let him go. And that's
Yeah,
what I heard
I
what
think
Adam
that's kind of a
Schefter
petty
said
way for
today.
ownership to handle firing somebody. Just fire him. It's
I
time to move
agree.
on. The problem is, they seemingly never have foresight when it comes to, all right, this is what we have here. We don't like it. We got to fire this guy. Okay, who are we getting? It's something. It's a business, right? You always have to be looking down the road to see what's available. And in this case, they might be saying to themselves, "Well, hold on, we still have a good coach. He just can't get over the hump. He's only been there for what has he been there for 5 seasons, four
Right.
seasons? I don't think he's a bad coach. Some guys are just better at being coordinators than they are as head coaches, or in-game coaches. If they fired him, I wouldn't be surprised. I know that some of the fans were griping, which is unusual for Green Bay. Usually they're pretty tolerant,
Right.
but in this case, it seems like they feel like maybe he's not going to get over the hump. And that's the world we live in too, where it's win now and win at all costs. And the grass is greener on the other side. Who can we get? And with somebody like Harbaugh available, they're going to want to bring him in for an interview
And others.
and
And others.
others. Yeah. So I just don't know who's on that coaching list anymore, because it seems like they're circulating through the same guys all the time, and there's never a clear path to someone unless they have experience already. So I don't know where Green Bay is going to look, and if anybody's going to be available that's not available yet, because we talked about that. How many guys are coaching in these playoffs that are not going to have jobs next year? I was actually not shocked, but I thought the Jaguars would win that game, and that would have gotten McDermott fired. But now, obviously, they won, so that's not going to happen. And Buffalo now is, you know, Buffalo. Buffalo is kind of in the driver's seat here. They're the most experienced team in the AFC playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see after tonight's game. I think the Steelers are going to get whacked tonight, but you never know. I thought differently before that, and the Texans, I think, are the better team, but the Steelers are the home team. So we'll see what happens.
So listen, number one defense. The Texans are number one defense in the league. They got a front
They're gonna
four
be coming after Aaron Rodgers all night.
big time.
They're gonna come up with stuff to I can't imagine they wouldn't.
I think Aaron still has 1 or 2 games left in him, and of laying it all on the line without getting hurt. Let's
Yeah,
hope.
that's fair.
You have a brilliant coach, and you have one of the best quarterbacks that ever lived, and he seems to be on his game with his arm. Though maybe he's not as mobile as he used to be. He's on with his arm, and this is it. You got to think that this could be it for him.
Yeah,
I mean,
they can protect him. I mean, they have two pretty decent sized running backs, and they have three huge tight ends that all can block. They spread it around when they have to. They're going to get Metcalf back, obviously, so that's going to make a huge impact for Rodgers to have that extra weapon. Somebody that guy's huge himself. So, it's going to be Pittsburgh is going to do what they did. They're going to circle the wagons, run the football, ground and pound, short passing game, and then take their shots here and there downfield when Rodgers thinks it's open. And that relationship with the quarterback and the coach will help make that offense go.
right.
Whereas it's not robotic. So, Tomlin, as we know, he's a good coach and he's going to have something up his sleeve. But I expect the
So
Texans to keep doing what they're doing and surprising everybody.
I heard an interesting comparison to Tomlin and Harbaugh. We had that game where, the field goal decided it. And it was interesting because they were saying, and it's absolutely true from my point of view, the difference between Tomlin and Harbaugh, the fans didn't want to fire.
Right now, it's a field goal.
Yeah, but the fans didn't want
A
to
missed field
fire
goal.
Harbaugh. They
No, I
really
don't think
weren't
so.
out there screaming, but the players did. The players were unhappy. For whatever reason, he'd lost control of that locker room.
I think it's because they don't have leadership in the locker room from the players.
I agree.
I think
Nobody
that
because of the
comes
because
from
of
Lamar Jackson.
the quarterback. Yeah. I wouldn't take him anywhere. I know he's one of the best that ever lived. I mean, I don't really go for it. So let's
I
put
think if
that.
you have Ray Lewis in that locker room,
Oh my
Harbaugh's still
God.
the coach.
I think when you have Ray Lewis in the locker room, I mean, you do whatever he tells you. Okay.
Right. That's right.
But with Tomlin, you have a team that believes in him. Maybe the fans have lost faith in him, but the ownership hasn't.
I know the fan base is frustrated with Tomlin. You hear it on the radio all the time.
Who cares?
But yeah, because I mean, any other team would like. You think Jet fans are going to complain if they hire Tomlin tomorrow? They got with what he's done. Would they be complaining about going to the playoffs every year and never having a losing record? I mean, it's pretty incredible. It doesn't, you have to be a good coach to accomplish that. And he's had so much talent come in and out. It's not like they're just loaded every year. They're not. They weren't
Right.
loaded this year. They went out and made a lot of moves via free agency to bring guys in to try and win this year. And, I don't know that they've shown their best football yet, but could be ahead of them. I'm not doubting Tomlin, of course, but who knows where we'd be if the Ravens had made that field goal last week. Maybe they have a conversation and he's on his way out. So
It's hard to know. I think that, that we've had some great playoff games this time.
I'm still waiting for the shoe to drop with the Chiefs and Kelsey and Andy Reid and where this is headed, because that I think is a pretty interesting story if it unfolds the way you think it will.
Have you heard anything about Miami where they're going for a coach? Because I heard something, but I don't know how true it
First, they
is.
said they were going to include the head coach in the discussion, but the only thing I heard was that Miami is going to do what the Jets did, and they're going to hire another outside third-party organization to give them suggestions. And
They,
here's my right now you have what, 7 teams looking for a head coach, or maybe 8 teams looking for a head coach, but they're all going to hire the same 1 or 2, maybe 3 companies to help them find a head coach. So if you're Mike Tannenbaum and you work for that company and the Jets come and they're like, "Oh, we need you to pick our next GM to help us find the coach." And he says, "Here, take this guy." When the Dolphins come knocking on the door, what is he going to say to them? Now, you don't want this guy. He's not for you. He's not the best guy for you. If you're the Jets, you have to say, "Well, wait a minute. Why is he good for us and no good for them?"
so I heard that within their group of interviews they're looking to do, that they slipped Belichick's name in there.
To Miami. The only thing that leads me to believe that there's a shred of truth to that would be his relationship with Saban from when Saban was there for 2 years before he took the Alabama job. If Saban, but they were much younger then, vastly younger. You're talking about 20 years ago, right? At least, right? Belichick's at the end. Okay, he's in his set. I could see him coming back to the NFL to general manage. Maybe he coaches for a year or 2 and moves up.
Yeah, maybe that's
You
what it
know,
is, but that's what they need. They're a
but
disaster.
they are a disaster. And the reason they're a disaster is because of their ownership group.
Well, come on.
Their ownership group doesn't know what they're doing.
Everybody that listens to us says the same thing, and they're not talking about that again, are they?
Right.
The ownership ain't changing.
That's why this league, I have to laugh when they talk about expansion and going to 20 games and all. It's inexcusable to operate this way when you have a pro franchise. So that's
Yeah,
why
well,
teams like this have to go to a third party. It Listen, I think you and I could probably start our own company and find 4 or 5 guys that would be suitable enough to be GMs in the NFL.
I agree because we can find that. But let's think about it for a second, though. But if he becomes the coach, so he coaches 1 year, he drafts some really good players, he works on that team, and then he brings in a coach to succeed him. He moves up the ladder, and even if he just
I have no
uses
problem with
his
that.
expertise to bring draft picks and players to play,
If you look at
he also has a great ability of getting players to renegotiate the contract so we can operate under the salary cap.
well,
Very good at that.
he had the most selfless quarterback of all time in that regard.
Yeah, well,
But to be fair, there is history here where it's been done before. When Mike Holmgren left Seattle, Green Bay, sorry, coached in Seattle for a couple of years and then moved up to the GM spot, he set that entire franchise on a whole new course. And they're still relevant today. And they get things right. And the reason why is because when he went there, he straightened all of that out for them. So I don't think they had bad ownership prior to that. They made the right move. They brought in a football guy. They did what you're supposed to do.
right,
But Miami doesn't have the wherewithal within their ownership group to make that decision. And that they have to go outside of that to make that decision is a huge red flag. So Belichick would be somebody that I think would follow like that Mike Holmgren path, coaching, general managing, and setting up the franchise. But with that ownership group, I don't know if that works for them
right.
because
Well,
he's going to
well,
want full autonomy.
but his bargaining power has diminished exponentially. He's going to jump at any chip he can get to get him out of the hell that he's in. I
Well,
mean, listen,
he's
he
got a
should have went.
20-something-year-old girlfriend. He's not too far.
Atlanta should have taken him. They'd have been much better off than.
I don't know why they didn't. And maybe, hey, listen, they might be looking at themselves saying, you know what, we should have done that. Let's right the ship
Well,
while we
let's
can.
not forget who the new president of football operations is there now is Matt Ryan. They just hired him to take over football operations. So I saw an interview with him and he was very coy about how he answered questions. But, you
Smart
know,
guy, good
he's a
quarterback.
smart guy. He was a good quarterback. You know, he
Should have won
never
a
got,
Super Bowl.
should have won a Super Bowl except for
The coach,
Tom Brady and Belichick. So,
well, it was his own coach. It was his own coach that lost that
right.
game.
Absolutely.
Take the points, run the football, take the points. Game's over.
People are brain damaged. But anyway, so let's try to get through the rest of these games. We've gotten sidetracked 100 times. And that is okay. So the Patriots, listen, I expected them with the Chargers. Chargers gave them a good run for their money.
Chargers were hurt, and I'm not making excuses.
Yeah, but they didn't.
They couldn't keep Justin Herbert on his feet. He got whacked 7 times.
Yeah, but listen, the coach from New England, I forget his name,
Vrabel,
Rabel. He's good,
no, well prepared coach.
and he's got good players. Unless the offense really wasn't firing on all cylinders in the beginning, but they got it together to win the game.
Yeah, because they don't ask their quarterback to do anything out of the ordinary or go out of his way to do something spectacular. They circle the wagons, and they do what makes them successful. They do what they do best, and they don't try to go outside of that unless they're taking a shot or they have to. So they're very much this year. They've seemed like they've been in control, even when they were losing. They've been in control of these games for the most part the entire time. So why? Because they don't make bad decisions.
Yeah, I agree. I
And
know.
they punt the
I didn't say
football on
why.
4th down,
I said right.
or they take the field goal. They're not making terrible decisions or drastic decisions or rash decisions. They're just very methodical and go about their business. They handle business and they move forward. Are they
Yeah.
beatable? Absolutely, they're beatable. Are they world beaters? No. But when you do things right consistently, you're hard to beat.
So okay. So here we are. So the final game we haven't talked about is Buffalo and Jacksonville.
Allen is the whole team.
I
He's
mean,
their
I
he's
don't know
their
what to say.
whole
First of
team.
all, he's a big boy. He's so
Monster.
tall. He's monster. He's tough. He's hurt.
When you watch him play, you have to think back to that draft and wonder what anyone was thinking not taking him first overall. Even by default, which is what I used back then to analyze those quarterbacks, how I got down to that pick. But I'm, it, the interview with Tom Brady about having quarterbacks that are 6'5", this shows you it makes a difference. He's not hiding behind his offensive line on the tush push. He's pushing them down the field.
That was
That makes a
ridiculous.
difference.
He carried those defensive players
You have
a
to
couple of
wonder.
yards, 3 yards, 4 yards into
They
the
got
end
10 yards
zone.
on that one. They almost, I mean, they called it a touchdown on the field. That was incredible. And then they let him score, which I understand, and Trevor Lawrence threw a good pass, hit the guy right in the hands, and that was it. It was over. You have to feel for Jacksonville because they played well all season. I know they had a couple of injuries, but they overcame those injuries and looked even better than they did before the injuries.
Yeah, I thought they looked good. They just couldn't. They didn't have that player went above and beyond. And that, I mean, he really, at the end of these games that they win, he picks the whole team up on their shoulders, and they love him for it. They'll do
Well, they were
anything
another
for
one
it.
that, Jacksonville was another one that, didn't take the points. Right? They had
Yeah,
after we saw it all day. We saw it with them too. Literally, you know, what was it for? I'm trying to remember the play, but they're guilty of it too. It was 4th and 3, um, on the no, I'm sorry. It was 4th and 3 on the Bills 20, and you're up 7-3. Take the points.
right.
Take the points. That's on the coach. I don't blame the player, but these young coaches think, that for whatever reason, again, I'm convinced that it's analytics, that they're looking at a sheet on a screen somewhere telling them, no, no, you should go for it on this play. Take the points.
I
I
agree.
mean,
I
Ben
constantly agree.
Johnson, Ben Johnson should have lost the game also yesterday because Chicago did the same thing, right? It was just, you have to take the points. They're so valuable. I mean, Parcells, there's a whole thing on Parcells in that documentary of his coaching tree, his coaching legacy. What is it? What are those things that they do, those specials they do on ESPN? They talk about football life. And one of the things they talk about, and they spend a few good minutes on it, talking about why did you do that? Take the points. It's one of his, philosophical points. You're on the road, you're in a playoff game, you're in a hostile environment, whatever it is. Don't leave points on the field. Take the points. You have to. It's so deflating to a team sometimes when, even if it's just a field goal for 3 points, you gotta take the points. You could never take points off the board. You can't do that.
Especially in the beginning of games, and they
Oh, it
routinely did
matters
it.
so much. It really does. I know that I'm a proponent of going for it late in games to win the game, especially if you're a dog. I always say never go for 2 unless it's to win the game. Never go for 2 unless you have to. It drives me nuts when it's the first quarter and they're going for 2. And just as much, it's mind-boggling to me in times, especially you're home. You're not on the road. Take the points. Don't give the points away. You're playing a good team. You need those points. They're gonna matter.
I agree.
So, lesson
Uh,
learned for that coach, because I do think he's a good coach. I know he got support from one of the members of the media after the game saying, you know, "You did a good job this season. Keep your head up, and we look forward to what's to come." And hopefully he learns that lesson and doesn't make that mistake again.
well, things change all the time. So I think there is. I think these games have been different than they usually are. They really have been. And maybe you're right. Maybe it's from analytics that people are doing things that we scratch our heads about. The playoffs are different than the regular season. The playoffs are full bore, 100% preparation, know your things, know your games. I mean, this week, you're going against teams that had, you may be going against teams that had an extra week of rest. And the
Yeah,
best teams had an extra week of
the two
rest.
best teams.
So, I mean, and, you're going into Mile High. So I'd have my players on a plane there already.
Yeah,
And you're
you want to
a
make
day
sure you're
short. And
accustomed to the altitude and all that stuff, and it's the best way to prepare.
I think somebody's too playing on a Saturday game where they played Sunday or Sunday night.
The
And
Broncos play Saturday on the 17th, and the Patriots play on the 18th, Sunday, and then Seattle's also on Saturday.
right. So and you get another last game of the season matchup, which is 49ers and Seahawks. That was the last game of the season. The Seahawks destroyed the 49ers, and I'm sure
Absolutely.
both teams remember that. So you have the Bills that played late in the day on Saturday, and they're beat up, and they're going into the Broncos. So, I mean, late in the day on Sunday yesterday, and they're going into the Broncos. So the Rams and Bears, and then what am I missing?
Yeah, I think the Bills were probably counting on going to Denver because I don't think anybody had the Chargers really beating the Patriots.
If Buffalo can beat Denver at home, they can win the Super Bowl.
Yes. I don't think they will, but I agree with you.
And
It's a big if.
that's
Denver's
a big
good.
if.
Denver's good.
And the other thing is if Denver could beat the Bills, they could be going to the Super Bowl too.
That is true. And they late season hiccup, I guess, by the Patriots gave them the 1 seed. So that would be, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. No doubt about it. I think, we'll see. Right now, the Texans are our only hope for a non usual suspect to get to the Super Bowl from the AFC. But I guess that wouldn't have mattered because I guess if the Jaguars had won, they'd play each other anyway. So, but interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out for sure. No doubt about it.
Right. So, sorry, they're texting me about my hearing. It's not going forward tomorrow. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of things. So, but when you look at the NFC,
So I picked the Rams to go to the Super Bowl, and I picked them to beat the Bears in the NFC Championship game. But the way the seeding broke down, that's not going to happen. They're playing each other this week, so you're going to get two good football games here. Anything can happen.
right. So the Rams,
The Rams special teams is what really kind of worries me, and I don't know what the weather's going to be like there. I don't think that really affects the Rams. I think they'll be okay.
so you're going to see Bears and Seahawks in the championship game, right?
Then the Seahawks are going to the Super Bowl, and we have to be on suicide watch for Jets fans.
That's okay. I'm sure that he, as they do those long interviews with quarterbacks prior to the Super Bowl, they do them like the week before, that they're going to say, well, how do you think Jet fans feel that you're here? And
He's probably got his stock answer for that.
And he's going to say, the fans were always great. They always supported me when I was there.
He won't disparage the Jets.
I'm sorry, he may rip the ownership a little bit.
Yeah, I would imagine he wouldn't want to create any sort of focus to take away from them being in the Super Bowl, if that's the case.
Maybe, but he may want to distract from everyone getting a hard time and concentrate all the media on him. So you never know. He may something
who
about
knows?
Eddie.
I mean, he would be oblivious to the pressure then if he did that.
So you know what I'm constantly the emperor's new clothes on Woody. I mean, he really just walks around like he doesn't know he's naked. But meanwhile, he's taking all the money to the bank. So that on that note, something else you want to talk about? Are we going to cut a little short today, or what do you think?
I had, you know, I know we were talking about the draft last week, where these quarterbacks fall and where they're coming out in this draft. You know, someone is going to go to a terrible franchise one way or the other with that first and or maybe second pick.
And don't you think the reason that Tom is sitting out there running the show is because he doesn't want the number one pick to say, I'm not going to the Raiders. So you
I
better
don't see
figure
how
it
they
out.
don't pick Mendoza based on what Brady has said about quarterbacks and their importance and size and fit and all that stuff. But
Mendoza is a machine.
listen, he's playing well in their system, and I'm not knocking him. I'm not saying that he can't make it the next level. I know there's a lot of criticism on him. This week they were talking about him being a fifth rounder at best, which blows my mind. I don't see how that's possible.
He's going to be number one pick.
He's going to be number one. I unless they take a defensive guy or some other player, comes out of this championship game looking like an all-world player, or somebody has an extremely impressive combine. I just don't see him not being the number one pick. Um, that being said, if you look at the last 15, 20 years, I remember Ben Roethlisberger falling in that draft, and it was the best thing that could have happened to him because he went into a situation where he he ended up on a good team, a good playing for a good franchise, a great owner, having that coach. I mean, he won 15 games as a rookie. So sometimes it's fun. Every time where you go in the draft really shouldn't matter in terms of position, one, two, three, four. Where you go, what franchise you end up is ultimately is what's going to make or break you. So, with Brady there and playing in Vegas, it's kind of an interesting dynamic because we don't have long-term history of the Vegas Raiders, right? It's entirely different. So they're going to get a new head coach. They're going to pair that coach with this quarterback, and you hope it works if you're them.
I
But
think, you know what? I think
imagine being
it's
the guy who gets taken number two.
where
I
does he
just
go?
the Jets. I mean, unless the Jets have a plan, for that pick in terms of, hey, you know what? We can't just take a quarterback. I mean, we haven't seen the combine yet, so we don't really know. But if the Jets decide that any one of these other quarterbacks isn't worth the two, and they want to pick a defensive player or trade that number two and get even more picks, which I generally tend to go that route. I know they need a quarterback, but the Jets aren't in a position to get this wrong. They can't just take a quarterback for the sake of taking a quarterback. And if Mendoza's not there, they're in the same position they were with Zach Wilson. And that's not a knock on any of these other quarterbacks. It's just that no one has risen above that level to say, I'm the guy. And there's question marks about all of them. Are they tall enough? Did they have the arm strength? Can they run? Can they handle this offense? Can they read a defense? That's for them to work out, you know, in their draft analysis of these players. But
I don't know.
if they take a quarterback, it's another 3 years in minimum. It's another 3 years in the hole if they get it wrong.
I don't know what to say. I mean, I think you got to know who your coach is if you're going to draft a really good player like that.
I know the Falcons hired a search firm also.
Right.
You know what I heard about Miami? I was wrong. It was the Falcons that are hiring a search
Hired.
firm.
Right.
Miami is looking. I think they're going to go the route of a searching firm, but there was rumblings of Troy Aikman being brought in to help them find a general manager.
I heard that too.
Not that I wouldn't trust Troy Aikman to do that. I don't know what his connection is with Miami. If you're bringing in Troy Aikman to help you make a decision, my general gut feeling is that there's already somebody in mind that you want to kick the tires on, and that Troy thinks would be a good fit there because he is a pretty decent analyst, and he does know these teams and franchises, and he has relationships with general managers and owners. I think there's some smoke there, but ultimately, you know, it was whatever comes out of these coaching decisions or general manager decisions. If these guys are still looking, I who knows? How do you if you're hiring a firm and they, how do you sell a team on a guy when you have to sell the best guy to 4 or 5 teams? It just boggles my mind that they don't have these franchises don't have anybody on the inside in their little group of CEOs, presidents, and people of operations to make that decision.
I agree. Yeah. I don't know. It seems to be maybe they do it just to cover the Rooney Rule. That necessarily they don't interview anybody that
Well, that's a whole nother, yeah. I mean, that
that maybe
you
they
seem
do
to
it to
be
say, "You
recycling
listen,
coaches in that loop.
we we talk to all these people and they cover it." I don't know.
I'll tell you what
So
what we haven't heard that's died down is the talk about John Gruden returning to the NFL. It went from people
I
wanting
th-
him to come coach the Giants to I haven't heard a whisper about him in weeks.
well, too many coaches became available, but I think if Eddie goes anywhere, he's going to go to college.
Gruden? Interesting. Interesting for
I
sure.
mean, I mean, it has to be the perfect place for him and a place they're going to accept him, and it'll probably be in the South. That kind of team that doesn't really care what he thought. There's lots of them out there, right? So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think that's
Did you
about all.
think that
Well,
did you think that that was pass interference on the last play of the Miami Ole Miss game?
I don't think how you could say it wasn't. That was
Yeah.
absolutely pass interference, and the
Yeah.
ball should have been on the goal line, right?
And I'm not sure about when it
In
happens in the end
college.
zone because it's not a spot foul in college. I don't know if that would have given them 15 yards and a first down, or if because it happened in the end zone. I think you're right. You get it out to one, maybe.
So then it leads to the final play of the game being on the 1 yard line, everybody just banging their heads into each other. Would have been great. So,
Yeah, they quote unquote let him play on that one,
right,
but he clearly grabbed a handful of jersey. The announcers tried to say that it was not a catchable ball, but I don't see how you could say that. He got a hand on it, but not that I was looking for it one way or the other. I mean, for a pass interference call or non call
right,
to decide a game like that is unfortunate because it diminishes how they got to that point. But
right.
Ole Miss got to be, you know, reeling from that, I'm sure. But, hats off to them. They played a hell of a playoff. Their coach had them playing lights out. The quarterback played great. I thought that was a good throw. Miami defense really had no answer
You
for
know, I
him.
wanted, I wanted them like you wanted them to play for the national
Sure,
championship, so
100%.
you could tell the old coach to stick it.
Yeah, yeah.
But
But also for
that's
the kids. I mean, they deserved it. They played
absolutely
I know
great team.
I'm an opponent of the playoff itself, but when it comes to the games and watching these kids play, I want to see fair play. I want to see good games, and they deserve to win that game every bit of as Miami did. So
So next week we have a lot to talk about. We're gonna, have the next layer of games. We'll be going into the championship games, and we're gonna have that night. It's gonna be the NCAA championship game,
Monday night,
and then we could start talking about the draft, and we could start talking about where everything goes, and coaches, and basketball and hockey.
I'm working on that. I'm looking to we'll get our basketball guy in for sure.
Okay,
He's traveling right now. He's going to be traveling for a couple of weeks.
it's
But
all
he
right.
still might be able to join us while he's
You
on the
know,
road.
I have to say that you know watching the Winter Classic, and I don't know if I mentioned it last week. I mean, the Winter Classic.
Sorry, I don't understand.
How's my phone? I'm sure my phone doesn't think I understand at all. So the Winter Classic takes place New Year's Day or whatever it was after New Year's. I think it was Friday after New Year's, Saturday after New Year's. And they play it in Miami. How is that a Winter's Classic? Because you're on ice? It's
Well, they played it.
bizarre.
I forgot there was a reason didn't they move that game to Miami
Who
for some
knows?
reason? They wanted to play that game in New York, but they couldn't. Something
So
was going on.
you turn it on. If you didn't watch the Rangers all year and you watched them play then against Florida, you said to yourself, wow, this team is good.
Yeah. And that's an easy game to sell. An outdoor hockey game. It looks great on TV. A lot of action, fun environment. It
And they're
makes you
saying
wonder if
they're saying, oh,
build
it's
outdoor arenas for that.
55 degrees. It's pretty cold here. I'm like, guys, it's 18 here. Stick it.
Yeah. Enjoy your 55 degrees.
Yeah. So
Lost.
I think unless you have anything else, we'll end it there for tonight.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
I look forward to game tonight. I'm sorry we can't watch it together. I know you have other stuff,
Yeah, I have a meeting.
but I have to say, it's hard for me to pick a winner because I want both teams to win. But I guess push comes to shove, I'd like to see the Texans, start making their way to playing later into the playoffs.
I agree.
And at that, we'll leave it there. Thank you,
Leave it
everybody.
there.
Have a good night. And there we go.
Take care, Steve.